What is up guys, welcome back to another GeekaWhat video, and today I'm going to be taking all these components behind me and building a $1,500 gaming PC build for 2020. It's going to be a 1440p and 4K gaming beast, and that is no exaggeration. So let's run through the parts, assemble it right here, and then plug it in, pop some games on it and see exactly how it performs. Make sure to get subscribed if you aren't already, but without any further ado, let's jump into it. Now, as always, we're going to kick off today's build with our CPU and our motherboard. But first, if you aren't already following me on Instagram, yes, Instagram, make sure you go and do that. I'll link them in the description below. Clearly, I need more clout in 2020. For the CPU, I went for the AMD Ryzen 5 3600X with a base clock speed of 3.8 GHz and a boost up to 4.4 GHz with 6 cores and 12 threads. It covers the single and multi-threaded bases nicely. We're going to be pairing it with this, which is the MSI B450 Tomahawk Max. Now, what makes this Max lineup of motherboards really great is that they're guaranteed by MSI to be compatible with all the third generation Ryzen CPUs, which some motherboards simply are not. This motherboard also has 4 RAM DIMM slots for faster dual channel memory, support for full-length graphics cards with full Gen 3 bandwidth, and overclocking support for our CPU and RAM as well. Installing the CPU is really easy. Simply line up the golden triangle on your processor with the triangle here on your motherboard. Slot it into place really easily. There shouldn't be any force required. You may want to give it a bit of a wiggle before popping the arm back down, and that literally is all there is to it. While our motherboard is still out the case and easy to access, we're going to slot in our memory. This particular kit here is a 16GB dual channel kit from ADATA XPG, and it's RGB. In fact, it's one of the most RGB kind of memory kits you can buy on the market. To install it, pull back the retention clips, in this case on slots 1 and 3 of our motherboard, and line up the notch on the memory with the notch on the RAM DIMM slot. It's a simple case of doing this for as many DIMMs as you have, and you'll hear a satisfying click after the installation of each memory module. The 3000 MHz speed here is also going to prevent any bottlenecks with our CPU, so all around no complaints. Another area of this build where you're guaranteed virtually no bottlenecks is this. Kingston kindly sent this over. This is a 1TB drive, though a 500GB capacity is also going to work well in this build and will save you a bit of cash. With read and write speeds of up to 3.2 GB per second, this is a true NVMe PCIe SSD. It's super small, pretty affordable, and is going to allow you to have loads of storage in a system like this. I've just got to figure out how to get into the box. Got it, bingo. Right, so to be specific, because I realised I kind of forgot to do that a moment ago, this is their KC2000 drive, and look at all those memory modules on that M.2 drive. That is mental. You also get like a 5-year guarantee on this drive as well, so you know you shouldn't have any problems with it in the long term. Simply slot it into the slot on your motherboard, and take a small screwdriver like this one to secure that retention screw down. It's worth noting that you may need to just move along this standoff because you can get different length M.2 drives, and this one here is a 2280, so it's the standard form factor you'll find on pretty much all modern M.2 SSDs. Okay then, I've just moved our motherboard assembly, as we're going to call it, over to the side to introduce you to this. I'm so excited about this case. Bitfenix sent me an email before Christmas and were like, hey James, we've got this new case coming out. I'm like, alright, okay, like another case, fine. And then I saw the photos of it, and it might look pretty unassuming now, but when powered up, the RGB on the front and the sides is just so cool. I've never seen anything else quite like it. It also weighs a ton because the thing is like, it's like 80% glass. Oh, this is mental. As with any of my builds, I'm going to recommend you take apart the case, sort of take all the glass panels off. Be especially careful here. You can sort of see where the RGB is going to shine and reflect through later. Oh my. So I've just taken off the front panel and there's loads of ventilation on the side here. That's really, really reassuring to see. It also weighs an absolute ton. Okay then, now that our case is a bit stripped back, we can retrieve this, which is the included bag of case accessories, and screw our motherboard into place. Before we do that though, you want to pop this into the back of the chassis, and it's the rear I/O shield. If you forget to do this now, not going to have a fun time later on. And it's really easy to install, just clip it in, corner by corner. That was really easy. Okay then, with our motherboard installed, the next thing I want to do is install the power supply, which is nicely hidden by this power supply shield. That's because some of the cables are going to need to be ran before we install the fancy all-in-one liquid CPU cooler. Okay then, now the motherboard is in, the next step is to install our power supply. I want to do this before putting in our CPU cooler, because the more things you put in, the more difficult and tricky it becomes to run cables. As you can see, this power supply is actually brand spanking new, and this here is also from Bitfenix. It's a 750 watt 80 plus gold certified power supply, giving us plenty of wattage and plenty of efficiency. I will link all the components in the description below for Amazon and other retailers. If you're struggling to get a hold of this in the US, something like the Corsair CX750M is another great bet. Now that we've installed just a couple of cables, our CPU 8-pin power cable and our 20 plus 4-pin motherboard power cable, it is a bit messy around there, but we can worry about that a little bit later. We're going to pop it in our CPU cooler. This is the Cooler Master Master Liquid ML240R RGB. It's an addressable RGB liquid cooler, meaning like the fans here, they've got lots and lots of RGB LEDs in, and you can choose the colour of each little one. So the fan can essentially be like 20 colours at once, rather than just the one. Now, in order to get this installed, what we need to do is re-secure the backplate and brackets that come included in the motherboard box, and then install the radiator at the top before finally fusing together our pump and our CPU together. Not quite literally, but you'll see what I mean in a moment's time. Alright then, now that the radiator's screwed in, looking back, I probably should have put the fans on before screwing it in, but we can do those now. All we then need to do is pop some thermal paste onto our CPU. You get a little tube included with the cooler and fasten the cooler down into place. And then I think it's only really the graphics card left to go. So let's do this. Alright then, with our CPU cooler and pretty much everything else installed and quite a bit of cable management work to deal with in a few moments time, it's now the chance we get to look at our graphics card. And this here is the NVIDIA RTX 2070 Super. In my opinion, probably the best graphics card on balance on the market right now. Nice and affordable at around the $500 mark, while providing top flight 1440p and 60 FPS capable performance at 4K, with support for ray tracing and DLSS and all that good stuff. I am going to have some more detailed ray tracing build kind of content coming very soon, so keep your eyes peeled for that one. Installing our graphics card's really easy. Simply take it out and try not to smudge the mirrored bit too much, and line it up with the slot on the motherboard. You then know which of the PCIe covers you need to remove to get it installed, and you're going to reuse the screws to fasten the graphics card down. Screwdriver, and like so. It is installed, and all we need to do is pop in a 6-pin and a 6+2-pin graphics card power connector. Now that all of our components are installed, all that's left to do is finish a bit of cable management, make sure all our RGB wires are connected correctly, and then install some games to see just how this system performs and what kind of experience you can expect in gaming should you put this thing together. So roll that cable management time lapse. As we head into 2020, I said I wanted to learn more, but I'm always super busy and I know I'm not alone. Well, I may have found a solution. Today's video sponsor, Blinkist, is a great app that takes the best non-fiction books and creates 15-minute summaries called Blinks with all of the need-to-know information that you can either read or, better, listen to. I've been using the app to feed my AI obsession. The AI Economy by Roger Bootle is fantastic. It looks at what jobs and working hours will look like in the AI age. Couple that with The Creativity Code, a book about how AI is venturing into the arts and music, and my techie AI senses really were tingling. Now, the first 100 people to go to blinkist.com/GeekaWhat, the first link below, will get unlimited access for a week to try it out, plus 25% off a full membership if you want it. If you don't like it, the 7-day trial is completely free and you can cancel at any time during that period. Thanks to Blinkist for hooking it up with this great offer, and remember, be quick to hit that link in the description below. Now that you've seen how the system's put together and just how good it looks when it's powered up, I mean, that RGB on that Bitfenix case is incredible. What I'm sure you want to know is how exactly this system performs. So I loaded it up with some of the latest and some of the most popular titles, a couple of synthetic benchmarks, and ran through each of them to see how the system coped. I'll start off with GTA 5. It's an old favourite, one of the most popular games ever, and this, I was blown away, honestly. 4K high settings, VSync off, anti-aliasing down to 4 or 8. You got to sort of pick which settings you fiddle about with, but nevertheless, high settings, 4K, and we're seeing 70, even 80 frames per second. I've actually changed the way I'm capturing the gameplay and the bit rate's higher, so hopefully you can see the quality on this is just immense. There's no stuttering, no screen tearing, and at 70, 80 frames per second, it's silky smooth. I'm sure if you pop down to medium, you might even be able to get 100 FPS, so if you've got a high refresh rate monitor, you're going to be covered there as well. Apex Legends is another one that people love, a bit of a battle royale game, and once again 4K high and ultra settings, you see an in excess of 60-70 frames per second. It's literally bonkers. Now I can see why so many people are loving Apex as it heads into season 4 now, I think, with the really fun battle royale elements we first saw in kind of Fortnite in the mainstream, with the much better graphics and kind of improved weapon dynamics and that kind of thing as well. Now, talking of Fortnite, I know some people love it and some people hate it, but the benchmark results on this system were really interesting. Initially, I put it at 4K with everything on max on the Epic preset with just VSync disabled. and I found to be around 50 frames per second, but it's a bit stuttery, it's dropping some frames here and there. I then dropped it down just one notch to 4K high, which doesn't really look any worse than 4K epic, but gives you another like 50 to 60 frames per second on top of what you're already getting, so kind of like 140, 150 FPS. So that's something to watch out for. It made no graphical difference really at all, but the gameplay experience was so much better. Project Cars 2 is another one you'd expect to run well, a popular game, a bit of a racing game for those of you out there that are into that. Works really well in excess of 60-70 FPS, and there isn't really much more to say. CSGO, as you would expect, works really well, over 100 FPS, but people always ask me about it. People love CSGO, so here it is. Overwatch is another game that's really popular, and I can report good things. We're seeing in excess of 60-70 FPS. In fact, it was locked at 70 FPS. I think it's like limited to 70 FPS, which is how that kind of works. But once again, the results are really good. For those of you who are about to mash your keyboards going, why is he playing in a practice arena? Basically, I quit too many games early when benchmarking, and I've got a temporary ban, which is a bit awkward, but either way, it demonstrates the performance of Overwatch, which works really well on this system. The final game I wanted to cover is Forza Horizon 4, one of my, well, I'll be honest, my favourite game of 2019, and it works incredibly well. 4K, high settings, in excess of 60 FPS, no drop in frames, no stuttering, nothing like that. It is supreme. Finally, 3D Mark, Firestrike and Time Spy numbers are on your screen now. They just give you a good way to compare this system against loads of others in their database with a really quick Google. In short, the system works well at DX11 in Firestrike and DX12 in Time Spy, which kind of future-proofs this system for later on down the line. Truth be told though, gaming on this thing is a dream. I've realised that the 2070 Super is quite a bit more powerful than I'd thought it was. It's always been known as a very powerful GPU, but actually I think it's now the 4K mainstream gaming card. The fact you can build a system all in with everything for $1,500 and game comfortably at 4K, 60 FPS, high settings. I mean, we're not toning down loads of settings to get this kind of achievable performance, shall we say. This system just blew me away. If there's any other games that you'd like me to add onto this list, I'm always trying to increase it. Let me know in the comments section below, because the benchmarking section is what I kind of want to improve in these videos, but more on that to come a little bit later. Performance, aesthetics and the build process aside though, I think that pretty much wraps it up for today's video. If you did enjoy it, you know what to do. Give it a big old like rating, let me know your thoughts in the comments, and do get subscribed. It really helps me out. Thank you very much for watching though, and as always, we'll see you in the next GeekaWhat video.